A day in the life of humans in the Ice Age. When you wake up, the first thing trying to kill you is not a predator. It is a fire that failed to survive the night. The cave is still there. The skins are still there. The ashes are still there. But the red glow is gone. Outside the entrance, the wind moves low across the ground, slipping under the edge of the hide curtain and pushing powdered snow against your feet. You are not fully awake yet, but your body is already doing the math of survival. Can your fingers still bend? Can you still feel the tip of your nose? Is the child beside you still breathing? Did the old woman make it through the night? In the Ice Age, a day does not begin with sunrise. It begins by checking who is still alive. That sounds like a disaster scene. But for humans living on the cold margins of the ancient world, it was just morning. And the strangest thing is this: we were never built for this place. We had no thick fur, no claws, no armored skin, no body shaped for snow. Beside a horse, we were slow. Beside a wolf, we were half-blind and nearly scentless. Beside a bison, we were fragile meat with ideas. And yet, this soft-skinned animal crossed frozen plains. It followed reindeer through brutal open country. It built shelters from mammoth bone. It carried embers inside ash. It pushed needles through animal hide. It told children where the wind had killed people before. So the question is not MPLY how ancient humans survived a freezing world. The deeper question is far more uncomfortable. What did the cold force us to become? The cold was not scenery. It was not a painted white background behind heroic hunters. It was an enemy that never slept. We often imagine the Ice Age as a cinematic wilderness. A low sky, a line of mammoths, a group of people in skins raising spears against the horizon. But most H in that world was not dramatic. It did not always arrive with teeth. It did not always roar. Often, it came slowly, through the soles of your feet, through wet clothing, through a sleeping child whose breath became too quiet. Cold steals in layers. First it takes comfort, then pain, then judgment, and finally, fear. That is the terrifying part. A freezing person does not always fight like a hero. They become slow, confused, sleepy, almost peaceful, because the body has begun to abandon itself. Scientists call the body's fight against this process thermoregulation. In simple words, your body must constantly make heat and hold on to it, just to keep the organs alive. For a naked-skinned primate, cold is a tax collected every moment. Standing costs heat. Walking costs heat. Breathing frozen air costs heat. Even doing nothing costs energy. Because the body is burning food just to protect a small island of warmth inside the chest. So the first task of the day is not hunting. It is not storytelling. It is not watching the beautiful light rise over the tundra. It is saving the fire. Someone crouches near the ash pile. Samio NE parts the charcoal carefully. Someone offers dry grass, bark fiber, or a twist of moss. Someone holds their breath and blows. If the fire lives, the camp wakes. If the fire is dead, everything becomes harder. Because fire is not just warmth. Fire is a kitchen. Fire is a lamp. Fire is a boundary. Fire is the line animals hesitate to cross. Fire is the first human technology that tore a small hole in the dark. Scientists generally agree that the control of fire changes the human diet. Cooked food is easier to chew. It is easier to digest. Some plants become safer when heated. Some meat becomes more useful to the body. But this does not mean Ice Age people ate comfortably every day. Quite the opposite. Fire did not remove hunger. It made hunch, are negotiable. That is the first hidden rule of this world. Civilization did not begin with cities. It began with a flame that could not be allowed to die. Before breakfast, we must ask whether the world is still passable. The sun rises, but the light is cold. You step outside the shelter, and the ground does not give way like soft soil. It is frozen mud, shattered stone, crusted ice, old snow, and sharp grass bent by wind. There are no roads, no fields, no chimneys in the distance, no signposts, only the patterns left by weather, the tracks left by animals, and the unfinished risks of yesterday. The Ice Age was not one single frozen year. It was a long sequence of colder and warmer phases across deep time. During the period scientists call the last glacial maximum, roughly 26,500 to 19,000 years ago, ice sheets expanded across parts of the northern hemisphere. Sea levels fell, and entire ecological zones shifted. But the world was not one endless block of ice. That picture is too simple. The real landscape was more complicated. Tundra, steppe, sparse woodland, river valleys, wind shelters. Local refuges where plants, animals, and people could survive. Humans lived along these edges. They were not always trembling under glacier walls. They were reading the world. Where did the herd move last night? Where could edible roots still be found? Where was their flint good enough for a blade? Where could a body sleep without the wind entering the lungs? Where had wolves passed before dawn? For an Ice Age person, the landscape was not scenery. It was a living ledger. Every footprint was information. Every shift of wind was a warning. Every frozen river was either a road or a grave. Our eyes had to know more than modern eyes know. Our ears had to hear more than modern ears hear. Not because ancient people were magical, but because one mistake might be the last mistake. This is the second thing that surprises us about a day in the Ice Age. It was not endless hunting. Much of it was judgment. Should we leave camp? Should we follow those tracks? Should we risk the valley? Should we lend our only good needle to another family? Should we share meat with those who came back empty-handed yesterday? These choices look small, but they decide whether a group survives the season. Anthropologists often speak of risk sharing. In simple terms, one person may find food today and fail tomorrow. If everyone protects only themselves, one bad day can kill a family. But if food is shared, the danger is spread across the group. This is not kindness in the modern sentimental sense. It is a social algorithm built by cold. When you give meat away today, you are not simply being generous. You are buying a future in which someone does not let you starve. But cooperation has a shadow. It means everyone is watched. Everyone is remembered. Who helped when the wind turned? Who lied about finding food? Who took more than they gave? Who stepped back when the dangerous work began? The camp remembers. The Ice Age did not need written law to punish people. It had something sharper: reputation. In a small group that must depend on itself, a bad name can be more lethal than winter. Now follow one child through the day. Let us call her Ada. She is not a real person from a specific burial or cave wall. She is a shadow cast by thousands of children who lived and disappeared without leaving names behind. Ada wakes because her mother pushes her shoulder. She has no bed. Below her is hide, dry grass, flattened branches, and the warmth left by bodies pressed close during the night. Her first job is simple. She must hand a stiff leather cord to her grandmother. The old woman's fingers are bent and swollen. Her joints move slowly, but she knows how to tighten the skins around the shelter so the wind cannot enter the seams. Ada thinks her grandmother is slow. Many years later, if she survives, she will understand. Slow is not useless. Slow is memory. Those hands remember which hide shrinks when wet, which bone needle snaps under pressure, which grass catches an ember quickly. which smoke helps and which smoke makes a coughing child worse. Modern people often think knowledge. It means words written in a book. In the Ice Age, knowledge lived in the hands, in the nose, in the soles of the feet, in a glance at clouds, in an irritating warning from someone who had already watched a person die from ignoring it. Scientists place this kind of human power inside the idea of cumulative culture. The term sounds cold, but the meaning is intimate. It means one generation does not have to begin from nothing. It can build on the mistakes, experiments, and half-successes of the generation before it. A stone tool is not a miracle made by one genius. A fitted garment is not a sudden inspiration. They are adjustments repeated across time. This angle cuts better. This bone holds a point longer. This stitch keeps out the wind. This seam tears if it is pulled too tight. This skin works better with the fur turned inward. None of these details feel like epic history, but they matter more than heroes. Before midday, the camp breaks into smaller groups. Some young men and skilled trackers follow signs of large animals. Not because they are chasing glory, because large game can bring a huge return. Meat, fat, bone, sinew, hide, tools, shelter, fuel. Others search for edible roots, old nuts, hardy berries, small animals, eggs, insects, and anything else the season still allows. In many environments, gathering and small prey are not secondary. They are essential. Large animal hunting is unstable. It is a gamble with enormous reward and enormous cost. If it succeeds, the whole camp breathes differently. If it fails, people return tired, injured, and still hungry. And here is another truth modern people often miss. In the cold, the most precious part of an animal is not always the lean meat. It is fat. Fat is stored fire. Fat means a child may not cry from hunger until the body has no strength left. Fat means the elderly have a chance at one more night. Fat means the hunters can move again tomorrow. Lean meat fills the mouth. Fat feeds the cold. Ada follows her mother to look for dry fuel. She crouches near the edge of old snow and sees a chain of tiny tracks. She wants to run toward them. Her mother stops her. First, she looks at the wind, then at the edges of the prints. Are they sharp? Have they been softened by drifting snow? Then she looks beyond them. Are there larger impressions nearby? The tracks of a small animal may mean food. They may also mean that a predator is reading the same message. That is the brutal intelligence of this world. Danger does not always look like danger. Often, it arrives disguised as opportunity. By afternoon, the wind hardens. The camp turns inward. People repair clothing. To a modern eye, this may look dull. No chase, no spear, no animal collapsing in the snow. But if the camera moves closer, we see one of the great secrets of our species. A small bone needle, a drilled eye, a strand of sinew twisted into thread, a hide scraped, softened, stretched, and shaped. These tools may look humble, but together they change the human map. A spear lets you kill an animal. Clothing lets you enter a climate where your body does not belong. Archaeologists treat bone awls, needles, and eyed needles as important clues in the history of tailored clothing. The clothing itself usually rots away, so scientists must be cautious. They read tools, wear marks, site conditions, and indirect evidence. This matters. Real science does not fill every silence with drama. It knows where the evidence ends. But one thing is clear enough. Without technologies that covered the body and trapped warm air near the skin, humans would have struggled to live for long in many cold northern regions. Clothing was not decoration. It was a second skin. It protected wrists, ankles, necks, and seams where heat escapes. It allowed children to step away from the fire. It allowed hunters to wait in wind. It pushed human vulnerability outward. But clothing brought something else with it. Identity, adornment, difference, a shell, a tooth, a bead, a pattern sewn onto hide. Once a survival tool becomes reliable, it begins to speak. It says, I belong to this group. It says, I have been through this place. It says, I can trade. It says, I can be trusted. This is the next hidden rule. Civilization does not always bloom after abundance. Sometimes it sprouts inside scarcity. When resources are thin, people need to know who is with them. A decorated garment can become a passport in a moving world, a sign of memory, a sign of alliance, a sign that you are not just a body in the cold. Toward evening, the hunters return. Not everyone stands straight. Someone comes back empty-handed. Someone drags a leg. Someone has blood on their clothing. The camp becomes quiet. Children look first at the faces of adults. Faces tell the weather of the night. Will there be food? Will there be anger? Will someone be blamed? Maybe no great animal has been taken. Maybe there are only small animals. A few roots, some fuel, and a little news about where the herd may have gone. This is not failure. This is most days. One of the ways documentaries can accidentally deceive us is by showing success too often. The spear flies. The animal falls. The people cheer. But survival is usually not made from glorious moments. It is made from days with no climax. No mammoth. No triumph. No clean ending. Just repair. Sharing. Waiting. Arguing. Remembering. Keeping tomorrow possible. Night is when humans become most human. After dark, the world shrinks to the circle of firelight. Outside, the wind covers the distant calls of animals. You cannot see danger, but you know it is there. Children move closer to elders. Young adults sharpen stone. Someone scrapes hide. Someone cracks bone to reach the marrow. Someone speaks quietly about tracks seen during the day. This is not casual conversation. It is information processing, where the herd may be moving. Which riverbank sounded hollow beneath the ice? Which child's fingers turned pale? Which hunter has begun coughing blood? Around the fire. Language turns private experience into shared survival. Neuroscience tells us that the human brain is a prediction machine. In simple language, the brain is always trying to guess what happens next. In the Ice Age, prediction was not an academic skill. It was life. You had to predict weather, animals, people, whether a sound was only a branch cracking or a wolf closing in. And stories were one of the oldest training grounds for prediction. The elders were not merely entertaining children. They were running simulations. A story about someone who walked the wrong way, someone who ignored the wind, someone who ate the wrong plant, someone who hid food and lost trust, someone who was saved because others still remembered him. By firelight, children could experience other people's mistakes without dying from them. That may be one of the deepest human advantages. We do not learn only from our own pain. We learn from pain that has been turned into story. This is also one of the most moving truths about a day in the Ice Age. Very little belongs only to the individual. Your body belongs partly to the cold. Your labor belongs partly to the group. Your food belongs partly to distribution. Your reputation belongs to everyone's memory. Even your child is not only yours, because a child survives through a mother, a father, a grandmother, a firekeeper, a maker of shoes, a reader of weather, a person willing to share meat, and another person willing to stay awake while others sleep. This is not a romantic picture of ancient community. It is harsher than that. Individual freedom was small, but complete loneliness was almost impossible. And now the modern contrast appears. Our day begins with an alarm. Light arrives from a screen. Hot water waits inside pipes. Food waits inside a refrigerator. Navigation remembers the roads. Weather forecasts read the sky. Hospitals manage infection. Delivery systems. Power grids. Pharmacies. Cities. And markets fold the labor of countless strangers into a single button. We look freer than Ice Age humans. And in many ways, we are. We can live alone, travel far, leave grandparents behind, ignore our neighbors, spend most of a day inside one room and still survive. This is a staggering achievement. Modern systems have saved lives on a scale the ancient world could not imagine. They spare children from learning winter through frostbite. They spare the sick from surrendering completely to luck. They allow knowledge to move beyond tribe, bloodline, landscape, and local memory. But the problem is this. We have not escaped dependence. We have only moved it from visible people to invisible systems. In the past, if the fire went out, danger was obvious. Now, when a system fails, we often realize we do not understand the thing we depended on. Ancient humans feared wolves in the dark. Modern humans fear losing connection. No reply. No signal. No recognition. No one who knows we are still awake. We fear becoming a loose thread in a city too large to notice us. This does not mean modern life is wrong. It means our idea of independence may be much newer and much thinner than we think. The Ice Age day reminds us that our species was never a collection of solitary machines. We are assembled by one another. The spear holder needs the needle maker. The fastest runner needs the keeper of fire. The young need the old to remember winter routes. The old need the young to bring water close. The strong need the group to witness strength. The weak need the group to say their life still matters. Night deepens. Ada lies under skins and listens to her grandmother cough. She does not know what an ice sheet is. She does not know climate cycles. He does not know evolution. She knows only that the fire is still alive. She knows her mother has tucked her feet back beneath the fur. She knows someone is awake near the entrance. She knows tomorrow will bring tracks, fuel, mending, hunger, and decisions. In the great sweep of history, this day leaves almost no trace. No name, no kingdom, no written record. But millions of days like this pushed humanity through the cold. Not because we conquered nature. That is too proud a phrase. We survived because we learned not to stand alone before it. We passed fire to the next pair of hands. We gave routes to the next child. We hid failure inside stories. We stitched warmth into skins. We held fear at the edge of the light. Perhaps that is the real inheritance of the Ice Age. Not mammoths, not stone tools, not the silent shadows on cave walls, but a posture, an ancient way of being alive. When night came down, we moved closer. When the cold pressed in, we shared heat. When the world was enormous and indifferent, we built a smaller world inside it. Today, we sleep behind glass, steel, and concrete. We no longer guard embers through the night, but on some late hour, when loneliness comes suddenly, when the room feels too quiet, when you want a familiar voice to know that you are still here. Perhaps that is not weakness. Perhaps it is an Ice Age human inside you, still searching for the circle of fire that has not gone out.